Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first story is titled, Don't Scream at the People Who Have the Ability to Cancel Your Insurance. I worked at a pet insurance company a couple of years ago. Anyone who has worked in customer services or in insurance will know. It's a job from hell. People yell at you for things the accounting team have messed up, for things the policy writers have done, for literally anything that you can't control. But such is the life with dealing with the general public. One day I was connected to Telephone Karen, who immediately replied to my cheery greeting with a pissed-off attitude. I knew immediately that the call was going to be a rough one. She told me she took the large, older dog into the vet for a problem the day before, and it turned out her policy didn't cover what she needed for her large dog anymore, as she was getting older, so she wanted to switch policies. I told her I could do that for her, no problem. However, whatever the condition was that she got checked out the day before won't be covered, as it would be listed as a pre-existing condition, which means anything that was diagnosed or found to be relating to a condition noted down within the past 2 years. That simply would not do for Telephone Karen. She started negotiating what she wanted me to do, which was essentially to move her over to another policy, one that would cover the condition her old dog was going to have for the rest of his life. It seems all the previous conditions too. And if I could take the price down a bit, that would be great. I told her there really are only two options: to keep the policy she had, as it did cover a bunch of other things for her dog that I could see in this file, or cancel and have no conditions the dog has been diagnosed with in the last 2 years covered at all, with any other policy she would take out, with our company or otherwise. I explained that there was literally nothing else I could do. Those were the policies as they were written, and I did not make the rules. My telephone manner was calm and polite. I didn't go out of my way to make her mad, just gave her the facts. Telephone Karen started yelling demands and all sorts of curses down the phone, at which point I turned the call's volume down a bit and checked my phone for messages and stuff. This is common. We customer service reps do not have to be at full attention if you're going to come at us with total nonsense. When Telephone Karen had finished, I reiterated the policies and my lack of control to do anything other than the options I gave. She screamed, literally screamed in my ears, "Just go ahead and cancel the policy then, you bitch," and hung up on me. The rules for cancellations were very clear in my job. If a customer said they wanted to cancel, we had to do it immediately. If we did not, and another payment goes out, etc., we, as individuals, could be sued and lose our job in the same day. So I asked my manager over and explained the situation that I thought TK had told me to cancel out of distress, and she confirmed. I had to. If she asked me to, it didn't matter in what context. So that's exactly what I did. I had it on record that she asked, well, screamed at, me to do it, and we had to cancel a policy if a customer asked us to. I knew the cancellation email had reached her as soon as one of my desk mates flinched after they greeted a new caller. I had a sense that Telephone Karen was about to claim another victim with her screeches, so I motioned for them to transfer her to me. I greeted her cheerily again, and she seemed to get even more angry than before. Hearing that she had been transferred to the person who had followed her idiotic order, she asked me, who do I think I am, canceling her policy without her permission, and I reminded her that that was the last thing that she asked of me before she hung up on our previous call. That made her all the more irate. She demanded I reinstate the policy, but I couldn't. It was canceled. The deed was done. I told her I could set up a new policy, and she begrudgingly said fine, and while I ran through the policy she wanted, I went through the script we have when setting up a policy, and at the part where I said, and no conditions that have been diagnosed or been linked to a condition in the last 2 years will be covered. Telephone Karen interrupted me and asked the conditions her dog had previously been covered would still be covered, right? Right? Wrong, idiot? They're all now pre-existing conditions. Telephone, Karen lost her mind. F, and blinded all over. She wanted to speak to the manager, who I'd messaged with the situation all along, as I knew TK was going to ask for a manager. They always do. The manager told her the same thing I did. I'd canceled the policy and she had asked me to, as we legally had to. I was listening to the conversation and TK said, "But I said that when I was angry at that other woman. I didn't mean her to actually cancel my policy." To which my manager replied, "Well, I'm sorry about that, but keep this as a lesson for the next time so you'll have the mind to stop and calm yourself down before you say something you'll regret." Moral of the story: just because you say something you don't mean doesn't mean it doesn't have consequences. Think before you speak to people who are just doing their jobs and don't have any wiggle room on policies that they don't write and can't change. The next story is titled, "Crazy Lady Tries to Call the Police on My Dad's Friend for Being on His Own Property." Now, this happened many years ago and isn't my story, but my stepfather's. It's always given us great laughs when we think back to it, so I thought I'd share. My stepdad was a very intelligent and versatile man. He worked for NASA in his youth. His father, too, taught adults with learning disabilities and eventually retired due to bad health and became a gardener handyman. During this time, he met and worked for a wonderful couple who just so happened to be multimillionaires. Although you wouldn't know it to look at them. They dressed nice, but were always ready to muck in and get their hands dirty when needed. They are salt of the earth people, hard-working, kind, and definitely don't take any crap. The wife swears like a trooper and often dresses down when working in the garden, etc., and will happily pop out to the shops in the same attire. Unfortunately, not long after meeting, the husband was killed in a freak plane crash abroad. He was piloting and testing the plane ready to buy when a freak wind took it and crashed it just after takeoff. He was killed instantly. His wife was obviously devastated and soon became a fast family friend of ours, as my dad helped her with everything in her giant house. Think actually a small stately home with grounds, and around the businesses she still owned, which just so happened to be in one of the most affluent areas in our city. So one day Pam, stepdad's friend and owner, asked my stepdad to help her cut back some bushes and get rid of some rubbish at the back of one of the sections of shops with very expensive apartments on top that she owns. My stepdad, being my stepdad, of course agreed. So off they go and have been there a few hours, cutting down, pruning, bagging up, and getting everything ready to burn in the incinerator. There had been a bit of window twitching from one of the apartments while all this was going on, but they had a big job to do, and they were losing light fast, so they had a deadline they were working to. Now, in my country, it's customary to not have any fires or burn anything until dusk. However, it is not law and doesn't count if on private property. This is important later. So Pam and my stepdad were just filling the incinerator and had set it alight when the window twitcher suddenly burst out onto the balcony and started screaming down at Pam and my stepdad. Pam, owner and Wonder Woman, SD, stepdad. Crazy lady. Crazy lady. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? I've been watching you for hours now, and you can't be here." "This is private property, my property, SD. Lady, go back inside, please. We're not doing you any harm. We have a job to do here. Just let us work, please." Crazy lady. "No, you're not allowed to be here. You're obviously not from around here. Just look at you. I'm worried you're up to no good." SD. "Look, miss, please let us work. We're losing light, and we'll have to come back tomorrow to finish up if we waste any more time now." Goes to light incinerator again. Crazy lady screams, "No! Stop! How dare you! You're waiting till it's dark so you can break into my apartment. Plus, it's illegal to have a fire before dusk, so you have to stop. I'm calling the police to report your suspicious behavior and that you're having a fire and destroying my private property. You could never afford anything like this, so just leave and take your rubbish with you. Both of you are trouble, and you, pointing at my stepdad, who looks anything but English. He has been mistaken for Arab, Greek, etc. by Arab Greeks all his life. You filthy get away from my apartment. You're not welcome here, even to pick up rubbish. And you, pointing at Pam, you should be ashamed of yourself, even being in the company of someone like that. She even started threatening to throw things at them from her balcony to make them move away. Get away from my property. This is my apartment. You need to get away from it. Bear in mind, Pam has kept quiet throughout all this so far. Just keeps cleaning up and shaking her head at this crazy lady's insinuations. The incinerator had started to burn properly now when the crazy lady screamed and started shouting about calling the police and having them arrested. Pam had finally had enough and shouts, Pam, listen here, you crazy ducking idiot. You go ahead and call the police on us. I'll have you arrested for false accusations and harassment. Crazy lady, hi, you have no power here, you scum. I'm calling the police, and you and your friend will be sent back to where you come from. Pam is Caucasian and looks very Caucasian too. Pale skin, white hair, etc. That must have pushed Pam over the edge, as at this she spins around and screamed at the crazy lady. Pam, right now I'm calling the police. You stupid cow. Not only have you harassed us, threatened us, but now you pushed it too far. Listen here, lady, I can burn whatever the duck I want on this property, regardless of the time of day. I'm doing it at dusk to be courteous to you, but you've ducked that now. This is my building. I own the whole thing, including the apartment you're currently sat in. That's right. I'm your landlord. We have been here today cleaning my property because it's overgrown, and you hadn't bothered to do it, even though it's a condition of your lease tenancy contract. So, as a result of the blatant disregard and breaking of your tenancy, plus your disgusting attitude today along with the threats, I feel I may have no option but to not renew your tenancy contract when it expires, which is very soon, and request that you start making other arrangements as soon as possible. The look on Crazy Lady's face was a mix of ashen and red humiliation as Pam removed her hat to reveal the huge diamond stud earrings she always wore, even in the garden, and her signature hairdo. Crazy Lady's face dropped, and she ran inside, slamming the door and pulling down the blind. Pam and SD continued with their work, now pretty much in the dark, but the incinerator was still burning brightly. They both returned the next day to continue with the work they needed doing, and not a peep from Crazy Lady. Pam decided to have an ask-around of the other neighbors of the apartments and the shops downstairs to see if that particular neighbor had been giving anyone else problems. Guess what? She was. She was constantly banging on the floors, shop ceilings, during the days which disrupted the shops, and always banging on the walls of other apartments for no reason during the night. So Crazy Lady's tenancy was not renewed, and she was made to move out not long after the incident. The last story is titled, Made My Life Hell. I'll throw a beeper in your office ceiling. I joined the Army and my first duty station was Okinawa, Japan. It's a beautiful island with awesome people and delicious food. I hated my unit. My 1SG picked on me. My first line was the worst though. She wanted to give me non-judicial punishment and was trying to build a file. The problem is she had nothing on me. So she just badgered me and said all my work was awful while taking credit for all my work. If that makes sense, like I would count people on the island and their status, present for duty, temporary duty, sick leave, regular leave, pass, etc. She would take credit for compiling the report by having me send it to her for her to send to our higher echelon in Hawaii. If someone needed a list, say of everyone with blue eyes, I could run a query in a system and get that list. I was the master of many aspects, and she took all my credit for me taking time to learn my job properly. If someone needed anything on their record, I would update it. If they needed a file on permanent record, I uploaded it. When the commander needed to know who was coming to the island and who was leaving, I made that list every month. When it was my time to leave, they asked me where I wanted my farewell lunch. I said I didn't want a lunch nor a ward. I was leaving one morning to go change after we worked out, and my platoon sergeant asked me what I'm doing for my farewell. I said, I'm not doing crap. He went to my supervisor's supervisor and complained. I was then called into his office. There was my platoon sergeant, my supervisor, and her supervisor. He said, what did you say this morning? I said something like, I'm not doing anything for my farewell. He said, no, I want the exact words. They were going to give me non-judicial punishment for not wanting a farewell. My commander, who signs the paperwork suggesting punishment, said hell no, because I was leaving in 2 weeks. Non-judicial punishment is one of 4 things up to doing all 4, loss of rank, taking a pay, restricted to base up to 45 days, and extra duty for up to 45 days. It made no sense, honestly, to put in the paperwork on a departing soldier. They forced me to choose a restaurant and put in for the lowest award, Army Achievement Medal, worth 5 promotion points. The base command sergeant major's policy was no one left without anything lower than an Army Commendation Medal, worth 10 promotion points. So I chose the most expensive restaurant. A few people showed up, and they presented my award. They asked me for a speech, and I said, remarks complete, and then walked back to my seat. Someone said, damn, Sergeant has nothing to say? She must be sick. My officer in command of the area said she'd pay for my lunch. I grabbed my baby from my lieutenant, and I left. I only let her hold my baby so I could be presented an award. I was not wanting anyone there to even touch my child except the Filipino mafia, Filipino soldiers. There were a lot, and they called themselves a mafia. They taught me a lot of dirty Tagalog and some Visayan. I took the award and walked into the commander's office and said, it's clear I was given this only because CSM wanted to know why I was leaving without an award. It's the lowest award you can give. He said, you don't want your paperwork for your records? I said, nope, so I bought a beeping device. It made a few beeping sounds every few minutes. I went into my office early one morning, climbed on top of the filing cabinets, and tossed it over the wall to her office about 3 days before I left. I sat there and listened to those beeps with joy. Another troop in my office kept saying, WTF is that beeping? I just soaked it in. She had to listen to it until the battery died, or she was stationed back to the U.S. Should have let me leave silently. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already.